Hello YouTube, CivilianSnowman again. I've got another movie review for you, one that I watched the other night for the first time in a while, and that is Donnie Darko. It's the director's cut that I watched, but I'm going to try and review the film as a whole, not a particular version of it, because I haven't actually seen the theatrical cut in ages. I went out yesterday and bought the theatrical cut on DVD, and it was only like £4 because it's not included on the director's cut DVD. So I'll try and give you a review of the film as a whole. It is the feature film debut of writer-director Richard Kelly, who, well, he's known for Donnie Darko, but he went on to do the complete mess of a movie that was Southland Tales. So, like I said, Donnie Darko was his first film. It stars Jake Gyllenhaal, Maggie Gyllenhaal, and Patrick Swayze. And it is essentially a sci-fi movie that is disguised as a teenage psychological drama. Jake Gyllenhaal plays the title character of Donnie Darko, as you can see him there on the cover, and he's basically a troubled teenager who suffers from hallucinations of a 6-foot-tall rabbit named Frank, who tells him the world is going to end in like 28 days. So then Donnie has to try and find out how the world is going to end and what is going on and why Frank exists. There's not a lot I can really say for the plot because there's so many plot twists and turns in it and significant plot points that I run the risk of giving it away, and I would hate to ruin the film for anyone who hasn't actually seen it yet. One of the things that I really like about Richard Kelly's film is, in the same way that Kevin Smith does his, and I mean Kevin Smith appears on the commentary track as a guest, they both take situations and conversations that they've obviously had in real life and put them in the film. So the whole family dynamic between Donnie and his parents and his sister, played by real-life sister Maggie Gyllenhaal, is very realistic, and you can tell that it's taken from Richard Kelly's life. And it's also set in the 1980s, I think it's 1988, which is when Richard Kelly will have been around that age. So it's very a personal film. The drama elements of it are obviously very personal to Richard Kelly, and because of that, the dialogue is very realistic, the characters are very realistic, like I said, the dynamic is very realistic, so it really pays off. It's a very personal touch in a film that, being sci-fi, ran the risk of kind of having an emotional attachment from the audience. The performances across the board are great. Jake Gyllenhaal is brilliant as Donnie Darko. I mean, you forget you're watching Jake Gyllenhaal, even though he was kind of an unknown back then. You feel like you're watching Donnie. He completely inhabits the character. Maggie Gyllenhaal does really well as his older sister, and she behaves just like an older sister. She's really quiet, and whether it's intentional or not, witty when she's around Donnie, and I find it quite amusing and quite a nice relationship that they have. I just have to give special mention to the parents of Donnie Darko. I can't remember the actors' names, but they are great as parents, and the dynamic between the two of them, the mother and the father, like the father is very much like Donnie himself in his sense of humour, and he's not disrespect, but he's kind of disregard for the silly little rules that society has. You can tell that he's quite a free spirit. And the fact that his mother, the way she interacts with the other mothers, who one of which is a Jim Cunningham enthusiast, she's very kind of, she portrays the contempt that she has for these characters in a really cool way. She's a very believable woman. The standout performance has to be Patrick Swayze's infomercial creator, Jim Cunningham. At least I think his name is Jim. Because he's a character that has a deep, dark secret that I won't go into because it's a huge spoiler, and I really hate to spoil the film for anyone who hasn't seen it. But through Swayze's performance, you can see, when you watch it again, knowing full well what he is, that when he's presenting himself to an audience, when Jim Cunningham is stood on stage, he's wearing a mask, essentially, and you can tell, you can kind of see through him to his darker side when you're watching his performance, and that is a real great thing that Swayze has managed to do. Patrick Swayze does really good as a man who knows that he's essentially full of shit, but persists in trying to brainwash people. Drew Barrymore is also in this film as Donnie Darko's English teacher, and she does a great job at being a very realistic character. She has little cracks at Donnie, while what she says couldn't be interpreted as bullying, but the way she says it could. And she does a great job. She's really quite witty, and you feel sorry for her because she does lose her job. Now, that's not much of a spoiler, but you really relate to her. She's very realistic. She's not unlike teachers that I've had in the past, let's put it that way. Drew Barrymore does a great job of portraying this character. I think that the best thing that Richard Kelly does with this film is, like I said, meld genres of like sci-fi and teenage drama into one. He does a great job where he uses his own personal experience and his really steady hand at writing and directing for that matter, and makes a film that is a very well-rounded experience. Now, the plot is very full of twists and turns, so it does require repeat viewings to get the layers out of it, and I mean, there are many, many layers. This film could be interpreted as a religious satire, and there's a Chinese girl in it who could be an angel if you read it from that perspective, which I personally don't, but there is a lot in this film that rewards repeat viewings. I'm going to give Donnie Darko 5 stars. Now, it's not a flawless film, however, it is an ambitious masterpiece, and you really have to admire what Richard Kelly has done, and that is why I feel it deserves 5 stars. It is essentially a flawed masterpiece. Well, thanks for listening to this review. If you haven't already, please subscribe. I appreciate every subscriber that I receive. Please feel free to leave comments, video responses, personal messages, whatever. And thank you for listening. So I'll see you all later. This is CivilianSnowman signing out. Right, bye.